Hey, Chad Peterman here. We are loving our partnership with Camp Digital on the podcast. They are who we use when it comes to all things digital marketing. In case you missed the first episode, here's a replay.
When you turn a certain corner, you have to be conscious of what you're trying to build. It's not enough just to have dogs in the office and lunch brought in every day. You have to be conscious about taking 20 minutes out of your schedule to walk around the entire office and say hello to as many people as you can by name. Hi, Chad, how are you doing? Hi, Jessica, how are you doing? Every single person, and mean it, not just walk through and not mean it. So I think if you want to maintain that culture, just like anything else, it takes work.
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today I have a very special guest that is going to help you prepare to battle in 2024. 2023 has been a grind and really made us all look inward. What are we not paying attention to? Are we executing on the blocking and tackling in the business that produces results? When business is down and the leads aren't coming in, it's natural to place blame. It must be someone else's fault. Undoubtedly, oftentimes that blame falls on marketing. Today on the show, we have Katie Donovan, the CEO of Camp Digital. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Hey, Chad, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you, not only because of the marketing, especially digital marketing stuff and advice that you can provide, but also exciting news for 2024 and our listeners out there is about our partnership moving forward with Can't Stop the Growth and the cool things that we are going to be able to focus on from a marketing and really growing your company perspective. And excited to partner with Katie and her crew who have been helping us out for a number of years now when it comes to digital marketing and our strategy and all of that stuff. So, Katie, I guess to kick off, why don't you let the listeners know a little bit more about yourself and also Camp Digital?
Thank you, Chad. And again, I really just want to say thank you so much. I have been a fan of your podcast for quite some time. I think the first episode I ever listened to was your 100th episode edition, which was back in February of last year. So
yeah,
February of 2022. Sorry, where does time go? So huge fan. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it. So a little bit about me. My name is Katie Donovan. I am the CEO of Camp Digital. We're a digital marketing company that works exclusively in the trades. We're really trying to change how marketing is done in the trades on the digital marketing side with a couple of key pillars. One being we call ourselves like a software company that does digital marketing, and we tie into that call board. I was joking with a couple of people last week when I saw you, and I said, I've never had a GM, an owner, a manager ever go home or high-five me or call me and say, hey, I did the best click-through day of my life. My impression shares were off the hook. What a great day. It's always my boards are full or not. So at Camp Digital, we really, truly just try and focus our entire digital marketing efforts around your call boards and getting things booked. So that's our story. It's a little bit unique, and we like that perspective a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is something that has been critical for us. Click-through rate and all of these fancy digital marketing terms are great, but are we putting work on the board? I guess from your perspective, Katie, I mentioned in kind of the intro that 2023 has been an interesting year. 2024, I think, is going to potentially bring a lot of the same. What are some of those things, I guess, maybe just from a marketing perspective in general, would you recommend that people are focused on budgeting season? We're getting ready for next year. What's our plan? What are some things that you think people should be really focused on?
I think everyone focuses on 2023, obviously, because we're just ending it. But really, from where we were watching it, we saw the shift start to happen in November of 2022. I think right along with those interest rates, right along with some of the instability through Ukraine and now the Middle East. And that does have an impact on people's purchasing decisions and how they purchase here. So some of the things that we're really focused on is one, everything's getting more expensive. And something that's kind of crazy for all of us in the digital marketing space is to really push people to think about some of the fundamentals. I'm a huge fan of Vince Lombardi. And one of the things I love that Vince Lombardi used to do is no matter how good you are, the star on the team or the first day guy, he always had everybody focus on those fundamentals. And I think that's wildly what 2024 and 2025 are going to be about, kind of getting back to some of those fundamentals in digital marketing, in operations, in other forms of marketing. If you don't have an email follow-up campaign, don't spend money on digital marketing yet. Get some of those fundamentals and those basics covered. I think that's really going to be the mantra, I think, for us anyway, going into 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think those are some great points. I'd like to dig in a little bit because I talked to a bunch of people this past week at Tommy's conference and other conferences. And, I think it's like, hey, what digital marketing company should I go to and all of this. I'm always hesitant to like, oh, well, you should definitely go with these people because I think there's so much more to the business, which you alluded to, that like, if you're not checking these boxes, it doesn't matter who your digital marketing company is if you can't do all of the blocking and tackling it's going to take, because we can drive leads all day, but if you can't book them, if you can't run them and all of those things, you're wasting money. If you're meeting with a new client, what are your people saying? Hey, are you doing this? Are you doing this? What are some of those things that listeners could take back and say, oh crap, we're not doing like 2 of these things. Maybe we're wasting money somewhere in the digital marketing space.
I totally agree with you. By the way, I also, being an owner of a digital marketing company, don't think there's a one-size-fits-all digital marketing partner for everybody. It really is trying to find that good match for what your business goals and objectives are, kind of what you're alluding to. I listened to the podcast I think you had last week with Mike Bernhardt from Eco, and he talked about those KPIs on the budgeting side and the operations side. I think those extend right in. If you're looking at some basic blocking and tackling before you decide what you're going to spend and how much you're going to spend, you have to understand the downstream. You have to understand how your call center is going to be able to take these calls, what your conversion rate is and truly is. Like, not of bookable calls, how many calls did I book? Of all the calls that came in, what am I really booking? Am I able to turn those calls? What's my cancellation rate? I'll tell you a quick story. I work with a client out on the West Coast. The owner keeps calling me and saying, I need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. And I finally said, you don't. You have a 40% cancellation rate in your drains department. 40%. Stop paying Google to get more leads. Go fix that problem. You'll make way more money than just continuing to put things in the front end. So I think it's really looking at some of the fundamentals from operations. A good mentor of mine from the Apex group, their CMO, said to me one day, good marketing cannot overcome bad operations, but good operations can overcome bad marketing. I've held that statement super close to my heart because, one, it grounds me, right? We just did our little bit, but really understanding what happens after that call comes in is almost as important as anything else to determine what you should be spending to bring those calls in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the things I've challenged our team with as we look at budgeting for 2024. It's like, well, let's not look at the calls we ran. Let's look at the calls that we got and how many of those did we book. And if we just really focus on booking, and it could be 2-3% more, and then you lay over your conversion rate and your average ticket, how much could you grow and not spend another dollar? It's not always about just, hey, how much more money could we spend?
And where you spend it matters, right? Again, I'm a digital marketer, so it's going to sound crazy, but do you have a good trainer? Do you have a good training process? I work with a large group on the East Coast, and they were asking the same thing. Hey, how much more should we add for our budgets next year? And I said, before you spend another penny, invest in a trainer. If you take that conversion rate up by 3%, not 30%, not 40%, not double it, right? But 3%, you'll add X more to the bottom line without spending more here. And you got a team member internally and a better customer experience and happier employees, and just kind of rising tide lifts all ships there. So no, I totally agree. I think it's looking down at the process for when that lead comes in and how it's handled. And not all leads should be handled the same way. I was just talking to another person the other day about form leads. If you have the same person answering your form leads that's answering your phone leads, you're doing a disservice to everybody who sends a form in or a check. Yeah. They're not at the same spot in the purchase journey as somebody who just calls you.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, because I feel like we've done a number of acquisitions over the last year and years prior. I would say one of the things when I talk to people that people may still be unaware of is LSA ads. And those are something that we live and die on, hey, give them to us while you can type of thing. I know you're connected with Google and know all the inner workings of the history of it and where it is today. And especially if I'm a smaller company, is that something I should get into? What's your perspective on the history of LSA, what it looks like, all of the nuts and bolts to it?
Well, you asked the right person because I'm a local service ads fangirl, which is unfortunate. I think I just hit a low point in my career describing myself that way. But local service ads, or a lot of people call them the Google guarantee, they are now the 2 boxes that pop up at the very top of the page. And I was talking to the gal that runs local service ads about 6 months ago, and I was introducing her to someone, and I introduced her as the number 1 real estate broker in the world. And she kind of looked at me and she smiled and confused. And I said, you have the most expensive real estate. You own it. You manage it. It's the top of the page of Google every single time. It's also very low funnel. So at the top of the page, local service ads appears. Right now it's 2. It used to be 3 different companies that will show every single time 2. And they're very low funnel keywords. Plumber near me, electrician near me, roofer near me, garage door installation services in my hometown, right? All those super low funnel keywords. I'm a fan of local service ads because in demand services, which most of us have at least part of our business in demand services, from the time I discover I have a problem to when I'm making a conversion action, a phone call, form filler, chat, is generally about 20 minutes. It blows my mind. To put that in perspective, Chad, I used to come out of automotive. It's 15 hours, 14.89 hours of research before I do that for a car. It's 15 to 20 hours of research for a vacation. And if my HVAC goes out and I need to replace my entire HVAC system, I'd say somewhere between a car and a vacation and price point. But we're spending 20 minutes of research. So getting the top of that page, local service ads, is so important. And it's a pay per lead model. So you pay every time the phone rings and it's a direct call to you, unlike Angie or Home Advisor, where you might be splitting those leads. It's a direct lead to you. So yes, we are huge fans of local service ads. At our agency, we're big advocates of LSA first. So if you give us a budget, we always want to spend local service ads first. If you're a small contractor, it's maybe you and your cousin in a trucks, right? 2 trucks, 1 truck. You don't need a lot of extra leads. So local service ads, if they bring you 1, 2, 3 leads a week that you're paying on a cost per lead model, it's a great tool. It's a great service. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's super low bar to get involved. And if you're not already doing it, I highly recommend it. I would be happy to help anyone at no charge get a local service ads account set up. Yeah, we're that passionate about it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. I talk to a lot of different businesses and I'm like, you're doing LSA, right? They're like, what's that? I'm like, oh boy. All right. Well, we need to get this going. But I think that's interesting. And I want to touch on the comment that you made, and you made this at the conference that we were both at last week, is the whole 20 minutes to make a decision. If it's going to take 20 minutes, obviously you're not making a great decision in 20 minutes, especially when you're probably under duress. Your basement's flooding, you have no heat, whatever the case may be. What can people do, I guess, ahead of that 20 minutes? What are things that they can be doing to help with that buying decision? Because we never know in the emergency service business when that 20 minutes is going to happen. What are things that you would recommend, like people are doing from a education perspective, whatever that may look like? What are things people can do to help customers along that journey so that they're there and they already trust them when they're making that 20-minute decision?
I'll blow your mind with another stat. And all of this comes from research we've done. We did a conference at Google a couple months ago, and we asked Google to pull some research for us and do some interviewing. And one of the other things we found through course of research on this front was that when someone types in emergency water heater service near me or in my hometown, at the very top of the page on every desktop, you'll see a result from Google. They're very proud of it. They've published it forever, saying how many results they brought you back in sub 1 second. So within sub 1 second, there's 1 million results often that come back. Within 3 seconds, the consumer decides what they're going to click on. 1, 2, 3. That's all the time you have to make that impression. And to your point, if you haven't laid some groundwork, it's a crapshoot on who they're going to pick. So I think heavily with some of the brand recognition, not to give shameless plug, but I sat on that panel next to KickCharge and they're amazing for not doing something with a company like that, doing brand recognition, mailers, emails. Again, it kind of goes back to some of those fundamentals, reviews. We're just talking about local service ads, but I think as important, if not more important than local service ads, is your Google business profile. And these are 2 things you can do for free. You don't need me. You don't need an agency. You can manage those from your truck in the morning while you're getting your coffee, looking at what job you're going to go to next. So those 2 things are so key. And then anything you can do around those local branding efforts. And again, you don't have to be a big company to do these things. If you're asking for a review, if you're a mom and pop shop, You can set an email that automatically goes out of your email system after somebody books an appointment with you with the link from Google Business Profile saying, hey, we're a local business. Your reviews are how we're going to grow. Please take a minute and give me a review and let me know how we did. That quick little email brings up those reviews. When people have those 3 seconds and they see that you're a 4.9 stars with 150 reviews, it's going to mean something in that quick decision-making process.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a ton of great stuff in there. I think the biggest thing that we've learned is just documenting video, print, whatever it is, like getting that stuff out there. I mean, especially if you're smaller, like take pictures of your work, video your work, have your helper video you ripping out an old, water heater or whatever it is, because while it's not super interesting to us because we do it on a daily basis, people are interested in it. And if you can make an impression and show the quality of your work, I think those are all great things.
I love that you said that. One of the top videos that we've ever helped get out in the world was a video someone took from their iPhone down in Arizona of a water heater flush and all the sludge that's coming out of the water heater. And I was shocked, but it had hundreds of thousands of views. People loved it. Or team pictures. I joke, we have a group we work with down in Florida, and I joke all the time because they just put a team picture up, just took a team picture at an event and put it up on his Google Business Profile. You can do it. I can do it. An agency can do it. Anyone can do that. It had 17,000 views. I used to joke with a guy all the time. I said, it's like the new Tinder in your town. I think people are just like looking through it, looking for who they want to see, on your team. But it was amazing. One quick picture at, I think it was a Christmas event. They took a picture of the team, posted it, 17,000 views.
That's crazy. One of the areas that we've had a lot of success in too on social is documenting when you do a charity event or you give away a free system or a water heater or whatever it is. Document that stuff. I mean, it's super easy. Like interview the customer. Like you just gave them a free water heater. Like, hey, what does this mean to you? How helpful has this been? And that gets a ton of traction on social for sure, which is only going to lead to people recognizing your name when they're making those quick decisions and different things of that nature.
I love that. We have a small company I've talked to in the past that does a lot of charity work, and they don't want to advertise it because the owner feels that it's defeats the purpose of the original spirit of why they're doing that charity work. But I said to her, no. If you advertise it, people will hear about it. People will support you. And then you're able to do more of this. You bring awareness to those causes. It's not just bringing awareness to your business. It's a great circle, I think, that can help. I say this all the time, but a rising tide lifts all ships. It helps your business, which helps you grow, which helps you support them. But it also brings awareness to those charitable businesses that we support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think shifting that mindset, I'm not promoting it. I'm just providing awareness to the fact that we find these people doing really good things in the community and we want to support them. If you feel the same, you should support them too. Like you're totally out of the picture, but you get some of that kind of ancillary benefit, which is not why you're doing it. But if the overall benefit is just provide more awareness about your company and what you do and all of this stuff, it's not like, it'd be different if you put like a $50 off coupon in the corner of the picture. Don't do that. But yeah, there's definitely ways to do that for sure. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, just because you've worked with a number of companies in the industry, you mentioned operations is key. What does your ideal client look like? What are the things that they're doing that when they partner with you, we're going to have a really good thing going? Like, what are those one or two things that they're doing that when you see that client, it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to make some magic here?
I'm a huge fan of people that lean in, that are naturally curious, that say, what do you see here? What's this here? I'm shamelessly going to say this. There's no one better at digital marketing than us. There's no one better at digital marketing than whoever your digital marketing partner is, I hope. This is what we do. We do it well. We do it all day long. Ask the questions. What are you seeing here? What is the best thing here? Have you heard of this thing called Performance Max and how is it working for you? And why is somebody else asking this, right? I think it's those customers that lean in and want to learn. One of the other pillars that we have internally as our company is we love partnership through education. We love to work as partners with our clients and really help them. The thing I hate the most is the people that we rarely talk to, that don't get on the calls, that don't respond to emails, that don't do any of the follow-up. Like Thanksgiving's coming up. Well, send out a note like, hey, are you open for Thanksgiving or closed for Thanksgiving? We want to be able to update your Google Business Profile, let your customers know. It's those that are engaged, that are naturally curious, and that lean in to the conversation that we find are probably the best match for us and for our business.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's any advice, and I've always been a big proponent of this, when you find partners, whether it's digital marketing or financing or who knows what, wrapping your trucks, I think it's important for people because I feel like there's always been a thing in the contracting world. It's like you always just yell at your vendors. Give me a better price. What are you doing? It's like this sense of entitlement that I feel like needs to go away if you ever want that relationship to work. It's got to work on both sides here. Yeah, you can negotiate price and do stuff like that. But if you're going to ask for a lower price, like you better be doing something in return, like growing or leaning in and being involved, not just like, hey, I want a better price. And oh, by the way, I'm not going to be on any of the calls. But if something does go wrong, trust me, I'm going to call you and yell at you. Like, what are we talking about here? What have you seen on that side of things? Like, I know you working with business, I'm sure you've had your fair share of clients that you'd like to fire. Where do you see those relationships? And it's kind of to the last question. What can people be doing out there to like bring awareness of what's actually going to make this work? It's not like just jumping from company to company. If you're always going to act the same, nothing's going to change.
It's so funny you said that. I was just sitting with Eric from Rival at Tommy's event last week. We were grabbing a bite to eat. And I asked him, I said, tell me who your target customer is. It's a competitor of ours, Rival. They're great. And he said, somebody who hasn't had more than 2 marketing agencies in the last 4 years. And it stopped me dead in my tracks. I was like, we've never added that to our persona. We've never even thought about that. But he's so spot on with that comment because it says something about relationship building. To your point, whether it's a vendor, a friend, a spouse, everything's about that relationship. We're going to make mistakes. We do. It's all about how the relationship you have that will overcome those mistakes. We hire a little bit differently at camp. The people we bring on board, it's a little bit different mentality. And so I always tell people when I'm talking to our clients or talking to people, these are people that really, we call it GAS, stands for give a shit. And we hire people with GAS and they really do care. You know, you get a lot further by saying, hey, work with me than calling. Although I do train our team too, that when people do call and are upset, it's because their names are on the business. You're a great example. It's not just Chad Peterman, it's Chad Peterman of Peterman Brothers. And it's you and your brother and your father's business that you guys took over. It's a little bit different emotion than like IBM or Target. And then smaller shops, half the time, that truck is tied to their mortgage. If you don't make that month, you didn't pay your kids' school funds. So it's a little bit different. We understand the passion in the space quite a bit. We get that. We get sometimes, like any relationship, we're going to take heat. We make mistakes and we got to just apologize for those and figure out how to move forward and admit them and move forward and correct them and do what we can to fix them. But to your point, I think it's really just a matter of building that relationship that's professional and really shows and demonstrates that we do care and then understands when the situation gets a little stressful.
Absolutely. I appreciate you providing a little bit of feedback on that. I think that's important for all listeners. And like I said, for any vendor relationship, you know, I always say we have vendors and then we have partners. I'd like to get away from all vendors and just have partners because it's all working together. How do we move this thing forward? We're all going to win in the end if we can carry out this plan. One of the things I want to touch on, and I think this is a perfect segue because you alluded to like how you hire people. One of the things that I've been really impressed with camp and meeting different members of your team and stuff like that is just kind of the culture that you've created there. Tell us a little bit about kind of your pillars and maybe talk a little bit about that and what that looks like as far as building your company.
Well, we definitely drank the EOS Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We are really proud to be strategic partners with Nexstar amongst some other groups. They are big EOS advocates. So we kind of said, what's this EOS thing, and leaned into it. So we developed our core values and really truly hire and fire and grow and reward based on those core values. But we also, this might give you a bit of trouble, but we also hire a little bit differently with who we have on the team. We have a subsection of our business that are probably second chance, I think is probably the best way to describe them. We've got quite a few folks on our team that are in recovery. We take gambles on people, and they've all but one time in my career have paid off smashingly. And it's just how you treat people and who you attract. We have more diversity in our company than in the state of Minnesota, percentage-wise. And we do that on purpose. We try and find that because people who have different backgrounds, and not diversity necessarily that people are thinking about that causes controversy, but even like how you grew up, income levels, and I think it brings a difference in thought to how people approach problems. It brings a very tight culture a very unique team environment in our company as well. And it's just really important to us. I protect our culture probably more than anything else I would protect in the whole company. We are really proud to say we're going employee stock owned. So that's a big thing that's hot off the presses. It's our goal to have that accomplished hopefully this year, but if not by the end of first quarter. And
Awesome.
I think that just goes to, I was listening to one of your podcasts about dreams and your visions. And one of the things that's unique to us is one of my dreams and my visions is for, our goal by the end of 2025 is to have 120 employees. By the time that ESOP hits 5 years, I want 100 of those 120 to be able to buy a house.
That's awesome.
Like that's my big vision. And it means a lot to me because of who we've hired and where some of their backgrounds are. And I don't know how in this economy they'd be able to do it otherwise, but that's my audacious, I can't remember the exact term you used, but it was like an audacious vision, something that's just crazy and out there. And that was kind of my big audacious vision is for our team members to be able to do that within 5 years of the ESOP going through.
That's remarkable. I'm glad that we were on here so that I could hear that because that's an amazing accomplishment. And obviously all your team members should be extremely proud and grateful to work at a place like that, which is awesome. One of the things I want to touch on too is the idea that you're the culture protector. That's how I view my role too, is like, I'm the number one. Like, tell us a little bit more about that because I think that's an important thing for a lot of leaders of businesses to understand what is your main job.
It's funny. I think, as you grow, your role does change. When we started, I was the bookkeeper, the accountant, like a lot of people probably who listen to your podcast, the everything. And that gives you an opportunity to create the culture without even realizing you're creating it. How do I want to be treated? I have 2 golden rules I joke about. The first is he who makes the gold makes the rules. That's Google. That's Google's golden rule. But the second's the real golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated. And when you're building the company, you're able to do that. You're able to just do that by being around. When you turn a certain corner, you have to be conscious of what you're trying to build. It's not enough just to have dogs in the office and lunch brought in every day. You have to be conscious about taking 20 minutes out of your schedule to walk around the entire office and say hello to as many people as you can by name. Hi, Chad, how are you doing? Hi, John, how you doing? Hi, Jessica, how you doing? Every single person. And mean it, not just walk through and not mean it. So I think if you want to maintain that culture, just like anything else, it takes work. And it's something I'm very cognizant of and very proud of and want to make sure we don't lose that. It's got to change and shift as you grow. But the core of what that culture is and what it stands for is something that I have just baked into my job.
Yeah. My big thing is culture is a verb. It's not a noun. You got to do things. It's not about just, like you said, having a party or having a cookout. At the end of the day, action lends itself to thinking it's more work. But at the end of the day, it's super simple. It's exactly what you said. Go around, make sure people are doing okay, find out what they're struggling with, and by God, help them. Like, what are you struggling with? Let me help you.
I stole this from Tommy from his conference last weekend. I already set up 2 times a week to talk to different employees. I love that. I saw that video where he's saying he booked a meeting with an employee just to talk to him. 2 employees a week, I think he said. And that's what we did, 2 employees a week. I thought that was so great. It's such a good insight from his event last week. I absolutely love that. And I went and stole that and already implemented that at our company. I love that.
Yeah, 100%. I think the first rule in growth is if people don't love coming to work, you're going to have a hell of a time trying to grow a company. People want to go where they're appreciated, where they're cared about, where it's a safe environment. It's all right to make a mistake. You're good. We're behind you. All of those things, which I think are incredibly important. I had the privilege of a call earlier, kind of meeting some of the other members of your team, some that I hadn't met before. Tell us a little bit about how you, as you've grown, and this is talking to maybe that listener who's, I'm growing this business. I've been in the trades my whole life. I've managed to get some techs and some installers, and we're really doing some good things. Like, what's next? Tell me a little bit about how you've thought about bringing on kind of those higher level strategic type people onto the team in your company.
We hire off 3 basic principles. So I told you we have our core values, which we have to check the box on, but it really boils down to 3 things. It's attitude, ethics, and effort. You can teach a lot of things, but you come with those 3. You have a good attitude, your ethics are at the level we expect or above, and you've got effort. You either come with that or you don't. Your mama taught you that. I can't teach you that. So when we're looking at bringing on that next level, and this is probably going to sound a little hokey and something we all heard before, but we really invert our org charts, or I can't remember what EOS called them, but the responsibility matrix, we really invert it and we look for those servant leaders. We make sure that every single person on our team has contact with customers, remembers what our core values are, has those attitude, ethics, and efforts, but also realizes they're being brought in to serve, to make someone else's job easier, to make someone else's job better, to get things out of their way. We also do a lot of growth and development from within, and that's a really big passion of mine. We have a lot of people that we brought up. I think the record holder right now is we have someone who's had 7 promotions since they've been with us over the course of 5 years. We're a big advocate in identifying and growing talent internally, but then also bringing it in from external. One thing we do that's a little bit odd, and I think people always question it, is we don't mind hiring friends, family members. Nepotism doesn't bother me in the slightest, because if you're a really solid person and that circle of people around you, it always talks about you're the sum of the 5 people around you. There's a couple of those 5 that want to come work here. Let's get them on board. Yeah. And so far, it's worked out for us. The shameless plug, we're the 6th fastest private growing company in the state of Minnesota this year.
Good for you guys. That's fantastic. There's a lot of great companies up there for sure, which is awesome. And I think that understanding too, you mentioned flipping your org chart. I always refer to it from a, when we're higher level people, like from a cultural perspective, our org chart is about as flat as you can get it. And we want it flat because everyone is on the same level. I don't care if I brought you in as the CFO or the service manager or whatever it is. From a cultural org chart, you are on the same level as all your people. Everybody's on the same level. All on the same level as that. That's whatever. Reporting structure, yes, you got to have something that reports up through it. But just because you sit above somebody on a reporting structure doesn't make you any more valuable than the technicians that are out in the truck. We're going to ask you to do different things. We're going to compensate you differently. All of those things are in just normal business. But when we look at the organization, if we're truly going to scale it, I think you almost have to flatten it out, or as you said, invert it so that you know that you're serving all of these people. That's your job.
I love that. As a matter of fact, what's a little unique to camp is we don't have Cadillac plans. So a lot of companies have a different plan for the executive team. We all eat the same food. We all have the same benefits. It's very important for us to feel that way from the person that sits at the front desk, because they all matter. I always laugh when I look at some of the businesses that we get to go see, and I get the honor of getting to tour a lot of shops. The person that answers the phone, your CSR, is just taking probably $100 lead in, and how they treat that person not only is going to matter whether or not it booked, but it's going to set you up for a sale in the home. And yet some places don't realize how important that person is or how important that call is. It blows my mind, because if anything, I think they're probably one of the most important people in the business.
Absolutely. Nothing happens to book the call.
Amen. And how they book the call, they're not all equal. I might book the call because I'm desperate to get somebody in my house. But if I had a bad experience with that CSR, when your tech comes in my house, I'm already predetermined to think negatively about your business. A book one of my friends, John Maroney, suggested we read called Persuasion. And I love the book because it talks about all the things you do before the sale to get the sale. And I think that how you treat somebody on the call, how you wrap up that call, how you send the emails out ahead of time, all of that has so much to do with what your ability to sell in the home is going to look like. Yeah, absolutely. We always talk about it here. It's the customer journey. And we go through it with every new hire, regardless of position, because it's important for the technician to even know like what was said on the call. And obviously they can go and listen to recording, different stuff like that. But hey, this is how we're training the people that pick up the phone, our customer service reps. This is how we're training them to treat the customer, so that when you get to the home, like, don't disappoint. They've already talked about their dog and the house they just moved to. They've already created a relationship. So now it's your turn to take the baton and continue to do that. I think is extremely important when you're thinking about all of the pieces that it takes. I did this one time about makes you sick. How many physical people actually touch one service call? It's incredible. The teamwork that it takes to put it all together. Yeah, 100%. And yet we still want to choke one person out, right? What was wrong? How come we didn't get that sold in the house? You're right. The whole process has to work together. It is pretty amazing when you think about all the people that touch a lead that gets sold, down to the bookkeepers that make sure it gets paid and assigned properly. You got it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that is, to me, provides a little bit of insight. I think kind of the theme of this is how to become a partner with a company as opposed to a vendor. And I think knowing a little bit about who you guys are and the way that you operate, that's what we try to do really with this podcast as a customer facing piece, is like, hey, just here's some insight into how we operate. We're not like cutthroat, going to try to screw over people or anything like that. Like, hey, we're just normal people.
we're trying to figure this out. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen, so on and so forth. And so I think that's really exciting. I guess if someone is thinking about, okay, really like what Katie had to say, I'm looking for someone or I need some help. What does that customer journey look like? Like if I'm new, I'm like, digital marketing, shoot, I didn't know what LSA was, business profile. Maybe I need some help here. What does that typically look like for a client of yours?
Well, we have a couple of different offerings, but I will go back. I said it and I mean it and I do it. A lot of people say things, big difference. And Bill Russell, who was at Home Service Freedom, now got a new job, but he had said to me the other day, there's a big difference between saying and doing. We've all heard that, but I love when he says it. If anybody needs help with local service ads, small shop, big shop, don't care. We are happy to help. Set you up a local service ads. We will do it. No charge, no strings attached. You have my word on it. I just think that's one of the best things businesses can be doing. That in your Google business profile. Happy to help. If they're interested in being a customer of ours, we have a couple of different packages. We like to try and meet people where they're at, right? Everybody, I think, wants to be a Chad Peterman, but not everybody is a Chad Peterman. So we want to make sure we help them grow along that journey. I can see Chad. For you guys listening, you can't see him, but he gets a little blushy on the cheek, but it's true, right? We all want to be Chad Peterman. So we have a couple of different packages, but what we'd love to do first is learn to see if we're a good fit and where that fit might be. We're pretty proud of that. We start every sales pitch, presentation, demo, whatever you want to call it. It's a sales pitch. We start everyone with asking you a few questions first because we want to make sure we're the right fit. We are not the right fit for every single person out there. You know, I learned that the hard way, unfortunately, bringing on some customers that weren't good fits and then really taking the time to step back and say, you know, why did that not work? What did we do wrong? Where can we improve? So the first part we want to do is learn a little bit about the business, figure out which package they might go into, how we can help support that client, what's best for their needs, because ultimately our client success is our success.
Yep. That's awesome. So I think that covers most of what I kind of wanted to talk about here that I think is going to provide the listener some value. The other thing that I want to cover, because I'm really, really excited about it. I know we've had a couple calls. We've been talking with the team, kind of dreaming big and everything like that. I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be partnering here in 2024, bringing the listeners kind of the inside scoop on digital marketing and all things marketing. Talk a little bit about what you're excited about with this partnership and what listeners can expect to find as they go through next year.
Oh, you're going to regret that because my inner nerd just came flying out of my body. Like I just had an out-of-body experience because that's what I personally am very passionate about, right? Is how we can help businesses, that partnership through education. For example, little things like what's happening in the Google search trends for next year. If you're an HVAC, you know, I don't think this is going to come as a huge shock to anyone, but this numbers came from Google. HVAC install is going to decline at search terms. Can't create demand in our space. We can only capture it. So we need to understand what the predictions are against demand. HVAC demand is coming down, but repair and service is going up. So how can I work on that strategy? We want to bring those little insights. How can we help with local service ads? Anything we can do on the digital marketing front to help businesses. This is the silly one. You heard me mention it earlier. But if you haven't already marked your Google business profile as open or closed on Thanksgiving, it's going to pop up with that little, a holiday may affect these hours. That could be enough in that quick moment where that customer is making a decision for them not to choose you. So all of those little insights that we can help with, that our years of experience, our status with Google as a Google Premium partner, over $1 billion in ads that I've overseen in my career. We want to be able to bring that to people in bite-sized things where they can actually take action. I loved Chris Gano's comment last week where he said it's the 95-5. Of the 100 people in the room, 5% are going to do something with the data. I love that. It really resonated with me. I want to be able to make sure that we can try and at least deliver those 5% things that are actionable and that we can help them with, that they can go do, whether they have an agency or whether they're dispatching from their house because that's where the truck's parked. We want to be able to help all of those people by bringing them some of those insights and some of the information that we have and we see across our entire book of the United States and Canada.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited. As the host of the show, I feel like I have to be in the 5%. So I will share with the listeners what I was just scribbling down as you said it. You said install searches are going down, repair going up. So what that tells me from a business and budgeting standpoint is that I've got to find out ways to free up my technicians. So this jobs that we are putting on, we've got to limit the warranty calls because those are going to eat up capacity. We got to limit those. Then we've got to prioritize our memberships with the older systems there because that is how we're going to grow, is we're going to farm our customer base that we've already created. And then we're going to have capacity when people's stuff does break and we need a technician out there so that we can service them. Being the 5%, that's what I'm taking down. I'm going to go
and
tell
train on
somebody
the
about
turnover
it.
in the home. Train on the turnover in the home. Train on the turnover in the home. Like, I can't say it enough. It's not that people are going to need less installs. If your unit still breaks, it still breaks. It's how they're getting to you that's going to change, and where their mind and mentality is and where you're going to meet that customer at. That's going to have that major difference. And I love everything you just said. And that's taking that little teeny piece of data and making it actionable that can actually help improve a business.
Absolutely. And these are all things like, I don't even have to spend any more money on marketing to do that. I just got to go into the operation and fix that. Because the leads, if we spent $10 today, we can spend $10. We just have to reposition our operational focus on, to your point, hey, our technician's doing a really good job. Are we creating that trust? All of those things. So that's just a glimpse into, I think, what listeners can expect here moving in 2024 is things like those. I think where the partnership is hopefully going to be, or where I'm going to try to provide value is as you or people on your team give us, hey, these are things you should be doing. My hope is to take it to that operational piece and go, okay, what did I just learn from that? Okay, from an operational perspective, this is what I'm going to go do. So the hope is between the two of us and people on your team, we can provide both sides of the coin. It's one thing to listen to digital marketing. It's one thing to listen to operations, but how do we get the leads? And then how do we monetize the leads at the end of the day is what we're both trying to do. So
I laughed because Google made $76 billion last quarter. They don't need any more of our money. If we can find a way to move that somewhere else and take a little bit of insight and help improve the business elsewhere, I love everything you just said. Love it.
Awesome. Well, Katie, we're about at time. I can't thank you enough for coming on. This has been a great conversation. I've got a couple of things written down over here, one of which we just shared on how we would action that piece of information that you provided. I can't thank you enough. I'm really looking forward to the partnership. Listeners out there, I think the one thing that I got out of this is, one, as leaders, we have to protect our culture. Two, culture is an action word, and we have got to really work as leaders to grow our companies. We got to protect the culture. We've got to look inward rather than blaming our digital marketing company, rather than, what are you doing? It's more so, what can we do better that can supplement our partners out there? So Katie, again, thank you so much. Listeners, I hope you got a lot out of this. I think it's a great episode that you can take a lot from, with a lot more to come here in 2024. Until next time, we'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.